Vatic Ventures Corp. is a potash exploration company focused on the Korat Basin in Thailand, the world's largest undeveloped potash resource. Vatic's management has extensive potash exploration and development experience in Thailand. Vatic will have marketing advantage compared to Western producers. Drill program commences this spring. Vatic trades on the TSX Venture, symbol VCV, and on Frankfurt, symbol V8V2. Visit our website, vaticventures.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Tim Cyclesman Wood, editor of Cycles News and Views on Cyclesman.com. Welcome back to the show, Tim.
Jim, as always, thanks for having me.
Gold, is it going to continue to decline, or is it hit bottom, and is it going to rise?
All of the above. Gold should be nearing a short-term low. So yes, there's a bounce in the cards, I think. The cycle is due very soon there between now and the end of the month. What gold does with that opportunity, is going to be very telling, I think. Looking at it, backing up, looking at gold from an intermediate perspective, the picture starts to become more concerning because it looks like we have possibly seen a failed intermediate term advance. And then backing up and looking at it from an even higher level, we talked about that 9-year cycle. And, there was all the optimism, early on about, people wanting to be bullish about gold and, the 15 low was the 9-year cycle low and this is great and all that. And, we had to give it the benefit of the doubt because it was outside of the statistical norms with that low having occurred as early as it did, right? So we had to yield to that, and it has proven that it was the low. But the danger there is that now with given the performance we've talked about of this 9-year cycle, I said that would be the worst case scenario for gold, and so far, that's true because following the 2015 low, as of now, the high for gold occurred 7 months later. And to be this deep into this cycle with a top in 7 months, or a high point so far in 7 months, is just not bullish behavior. And then looking at the structure, yes, it's managed to somewhat hold up, and by and large has gone nowhere and been sideways, but the structure is, it's about to get to where the rubber meets the road, as they say, with the structure on gold. And the thing that concerns me more so with gold is that, we've been talking big picture. And let me digress for a minute. This stuff has taken forever to set up, granted. But, one of the things we talked about was a major low in the dollar, which I think is in place. Obviously, we finally have confirmed that. And we were anticipating that. We talked about that early on in the year. One of the other things we've been looking for was a major top in commodities. There's a 3-year cycle. Looking at the CRB, we're starting to see evidence that top is taking hold. Looking at looking at crude oil, we're starting to see that 3-year cycle top is trying to take hold. It should be in place. We need to see a little more structural hard confirmation of that. And so with that said, the 3-year cycle top in gold and in the commodity complex, I would tend to think would be a weight on gold as well. So everything, looks like that it is trying to set up, as we talked about, to decline. When we look at equities, I think that the 4-year cycle top and the top being in place is definitely on the table, but that too is still evolving.
We'll have more with Tim Cyclesman Wood right after the break.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company. with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN-AF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
I'm Kelly Jennings, CEO of PowerBand Solutions. PowerBand is a cloud-based provider of auction, inventory, and finance solutions that make buying, selling, and financing vehicles more efficient. PowerBand Solutions trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol PBX and on the OTCQB symbol PWWBF and on Frankfurt symbol 1ZV. For more information, please visit us at powerbandsolutions.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Tim Cyclesman Wood. Tim, let's dive a little deeper into the crude pool. What is your projection here? We had, prices that seasonally were too high over the winter. What are we going to see over the summer, the so-called driving season?
Well, typically, if you look at the seasonality, and nothing is carved in stone is 100%, but typically you see a bottom in the, late in the year, early in the year, in the cold months, and you see winter months, and you see the peak sometime in the summer. I've seen, again, I don't have hard statistics. I'm speaking in general terms, but somewhere between May and August, you tend to see the top. Well, the weird thing with crude oil, and I think we talked about this, is that it was unseasonal, I can't tongue-tied, to see the advance through the winter like we did. And this year we pressed into, the high that we saw so far is in May. And I think that we have seen that seasonal cycle that seasonal cycle top, if you will. I think it's probably in place. And I think knowing the timing, for the 3-year cycle, like I talked about, I think it's probably going to should prove to mark, that 3-year cycle top as well. What that means for for crude oil is, I think obviously it means lower prices. Do we move back down to the 2016 low? I don't know. I lost the statistics on the CRB on that, but that was the original thinking, but it lingered long enough to where those statistics were lost. I think it's possible. I think we're going to see some sort of a retest of those lows. Do we violate those lows? How deeply do we retest the lows? I don't know. I lost the statistics on it, but let me say this. If you back up, for example, I'm looking at a crude oil chart right now. If you look at the high back in 2008 and the low in December 2015, what people don't realize when you put things in perspective, we've only retraced 38.2% of that of that decline. So it's been as strong on the one hand as the rally has felt. It's, when you look at it in the proper perspective, it's actually been, a fairly weak advance. So I think that if this does prove to be the 3-year cycle top, which again, I think it should, then I think that, lower prices and some sort of a retest of that 2015-16 low is certainly on the table.
People, of course, are looking to put their money someplace. Do you think money that would have gone into energy stocks or gold was siphoned off by the cryptocurrencies?
I have no idea about the cryptocurrencies. My personal opinion, just looking at the chart, is that they're in the boat with everything else. The cyclical movement is very similar, and I don't think that there is any escape. My hope was, as with many of the listeners, I think we have a number of so-called gold bugs, which I put myself in that same camp. My hope was that we had not seen the 9-year cycle low and that gold would be some sort of a safe haven, with, the things that we're expecting with the economy, the stock market, and general asset prices. But, unfortunately, it is what it is, and it's set up to where I don't see gold as that safe haven. I certainly don't think I see a cryptocurrency being that safe haven. And so, it sounds a little extreme to say, but I don't know that I do see a safe haven. I was talking to a money manager earlier this morning, and he said he was talking with a client, and they had retired. They've done well. They've pulled their money out of, well, they haven't pulled their money out of the markets, but they've retired and they're wanting to do something. They're trying to make some decisions, as I understand it. I'm paraphrasing the synopsis of the situation. But anyway, they met with him this week, and they're like, okay, what do we do? We need this much money. This is what we got. They're trying to plan their retirement. They're retiring, and they've had money in the market. And he's explaining to them the risks as he sees it. And they totally, according to him, they totally dismissed, couldn't believe what he was trying to tell them as far as the risk. And that is the real danger of this market. Back when the 2009 low occurred, I knew it was a 4-year cycle low and knew the market was going to rally. Did not imagine that we were going to see the things that we've seen with, the QE programs and so on and so forth to push this market, extend it, and create the bubble that we create. I don't think anybody could have possibly imagined that. But one of the comments that I made at the time of that low was that the longer the rally lasted, the more believable it would become. Well, at this point, as extreme as this advance has become, and when I say extreme, I mean extreme across the board, looking at, housing, commodity prices, looking at cryptocurrencies, for Christ's sake, looking at, according to some of the technical readings I've mentioned, back in January at the high, we had, by some technical measures, we had the most overbought market, U.S. stock market, since 1800, according to the data, my database of U.S. stock prices. And then I've mentioned, like I said, the Hussman valuation models, the most overbought, overvalued, stock prices in U.S. history. So the extreme has gone on so long that it feels like a norm, like it's normal, and it's not. And so that's the danger of this market, is that people don't realize the danger of this market, if that makes sense. And I mentioned the 4-year cycle top. I don't have all the evidence at this point to say that top is in. It's certainly trying to take hold. I need to see a little more evidence before I can confirm it. And originally my thinking is that there was another push back up before that 4-year cycle top was seen. And the jury's out on that right at this point. I do know that equities, commodities, and pretty much all asset classes are trying. It's evolving. The setup is underway. It's happening. And then I think the fallout is going to be far, far greater than people realize. And the answer to your question was, where do you go? And, I think I've made this comment before too. There was an old man once told me, he said, that, you can be long, you can be short, or you can be on the side. And he said there's time to be aggressively in all of those positions. And, I think that the safe haven is going to be out of the way.
Cash out your stocks, put them into a short-term interest rate account. Would that be a good idea? With interest rates expected to continue to rise, maybe you could at least hold on to your cash and even make a little money there.
Well, and then come back in, then have all your marbles to come back and play the game, at a better time. And I know that we have been talking about this bubble. We've been talking about this bubble. We've been talking about this bubble. And like I said, it's taken forever to set up. I get it. I understand. It doesn't change anything. It's like, I don't know, like I said, I hate corny analogies, but it's like saying, my car's, on its last leg and it's got this problem, but it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. It doesn't change the fact that it's, on its last leg, that it's got problem X, Y, or Z. But it's going to break. And so, the fact that it's held on, I think there is, as long as it has, is taken most everybody by surprise, but it doesn't change the reality of it being the greatest bubble ever. Or I think the outcome once the the setup is finally in place for it. And maybe this thing can mend itself and continue on. But, it's certainly trying to set up. And I think we're going to know a lot more about that setup in the next few months as we move through this summer. I think it's going to become fairly obvious.
We'll have more with Tim Cyclesman Wood right after this.
I'm Brian Fowler, president of Blind Creek Resources Limited, listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, ticker symbol BCK. Blind Creek is focused in the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and British Columbia. The company's key property is the Blend Project, one of the largest undeveloped lead-zinc-silver deposits in Western Canada, plus plans to advance the recently acquired, fully permitted historic engineered gold mine in the Atlan District of Northwestern BC. Check us out at blindcreekresources.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Tim Cyclesman Wood. Tim, has the record level of stock buybacks acted as kind of an informal quantitative easing?
I think that that's certainly been a factor. I think there's been a number of factors, and yes, I think that's probably among part of the equation.
Given that the U.S. seems to be in a trade war now with China, how does that affect the cycles?
I don't look at the fundamentals at all, but obviously I don't think that it's the way the cycles appear to be setting up. It doesn't appear that is going to work out to be a positive thing for U.S. markets, but it's not just the U.S. markets. It's all of the markets. It's the global markets. If you look at, and I forget if it was the Shanghai or the Hang Seng, but those markets, looking at the structure there, they are not in good shape. When I look at, I can't remember some of the other indexes, foreign indexes, the Russian market, it hasn't broken down yet, but the structure is not, it's kind of sending its warnings as well. When I look at, it's been several weeks since I've looked at it, but when I look at, I think it was the Australian market, there's some issues there. There's cracks. There's cracks to various degrees in all of these markets. When I look at the Dow Jones World Stock Index, the same warnings are there. Like I said, you equate it to kind of like, again, I hate corny analogies, but it's like, driving down the road and get to the intersection. We're at that technical juncture. We're at that intersection. It may go straight, but it can dang sure turn. And so the opportunity is there in this, this process of setting up.
What about the greed hangover where people have seen the market go up when people expected it to correct massively? Are they, again, just addicted to the fact that, I can squeeze a little bit more out of this, why play it safe?
I think that's absolutely a factor. The sentiment, basically, is what you're talking about. I think that's absolutely a factor. And they've made people, it's like I talked to my friend Peter Leides. Peter Leides has been involved in the markets, a great technician for, 50 years. He's been doing this for 50 years. And people like, Bob Prechter and Richard Russell. He's dead now, but Richard Russell saw this for what it was. And then even the fundamentalists like Hussman. People laugh at John Hussman. They probably laugh at me. I don't care. I'm not going to, well, I do care, but it's not going to make me change my story. Because I see what I see, and I'll get the last laugh, I think, because, I know what I see, and I think that's just a sign of the times, is what I'm trying to say. It's a sign. It's part of it. It's human nature. It's part of the bubble, part of the process.
Tim, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you.
My guest has been Tim Cyclesman Wood, editor of Cycles News and Views on cyclesman.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter at HowStreet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions for the show or our guests can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.